Hello and welcome to the beautiful ballroom of Liverpool's Town Hall. It's such a pleasure to welcome you here today. You are the people who, in very different ways, kept our city ticking over during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic. And we here at Liverpool City Council wanted to thank you so very much for your efforts. My name is Camilla Mankabardi, and I'm the City Council's Director of Communications, and I will be guiding you through this Thanksgiving hour. So I'm absolutely delighted to say that this evening we will hear from the city's Lord Mayor, Councillor Mary Rasmussen, from the Mayor, Joanne Anderson, from our Chief Executive, Tony Reeves, and also from our Director of Public Health, Matt Ashton. But you know what, it's really remarkable that we are all able to actually gather here face to face today. There were some moments, weren't there, during the last 18 months when it really did feel like an impossibility. We're of course mindful that the virus has not gone away, so I thank you very much for wearing your face coverings in and around the communal areas of this building, and for also taking your lateral flow tests in advance of this gathering. So this event will be a COVID-safe event. We will remain socially distanced over the next hour, and sadly, there will be no handshakes or even hugs, but we do hope there will be plenty of smiles. So it's worth mentioning that there are some guests who are not able to be with us today. So we are actually live streaming this event on our social media channels, and we also have some colleagues from the press in attendance today. So this Thanksgiving hour has actually come about because we wanted to do something to show our appreciation for the way in which the city came together over the last 18 months. Every one of us in this room has been affected in some way by COVID-19, whether we have had the virus, treated the virus, helped others who were shielding as a result of the virus, or just did something to lift the city's spirits during the very darkest days of the pandemic. So we should all be tremendously proud of the way in which this city, our city, led the way nationally and also internationally through piloting smart testing and hosting large-scale events, culminating with the recent opening of the city's Pandemic Institute just a few weeks ago. So this evening, we want to showcase the very best of the human spirit and the warmth that this city is famous for right around the world. So each of you here tonight will be receiving a very special book that we have produced for this occasion, and it actually tells the story of Liverpool's COVID journey since March 2020, and some of you actually feature in the pages of this book. Of course, there are many others who've played their part, and their commitment is also recognised and has also been recognised over the very difficult weeks and months that we've had. But tonight, what we want to do is just focus on some of the individual stories. But first of all, let's just remember how it all unfolded.
BBC Radio Merseyside.
Good morning, it's Monday the 23rd of March.
The Prime Minister Boris Johnson has warned tougher measures could be introduced if people don't stick to the advice around social distancing.
From this evening, I must give the British people a very simple instruction. You must stay at home.
We now have 281 people who've died from coronavirus in the UK.
Coronavirus is the most serious public health emergency that has faced the world in a century.
The death rate is rising. We really have to take this seriously.
At the time, it was all very new and not exciting because it's terrible, but it was all very different.
I was filled with fear and worried for my mother. I never ever dreamt it would go on.
It's going to be over by summer.
Across our country, people are working day and night to keep us safe.
Community has been a big thing. They've got carers.
Going into tier 3, we could have been overwhelmed in days.
Stay at home, protect our NHS and save lives.
When you think of Liverpool, you think of resilience, you think of that community spirit. When something as chaotic and crazy as a pandemic hits us, you see that resilience rise. The most beautiful things happen.
Testing is vital.
The Liverpool pilot will help inform a blueprint of how mass testing can be achieved.
I feel very privileged to be a part of that.
The virus is out of control.
We have no choice but to return to a national lockdown.
Perhaps the darkest moment of the pandemic.
The number of deaths recorded from COVID in the UK has surpassed 100,000.
It was all very disheartening, very sad. And the worry was seeing people like my family in the future.
We're seeing major scientific advances that will help get things back to normal.
We're now travelling on a one-way road to freedom.
Bring it on. Let's get back to normal.
So as large parts of the nation and even the world stopped, for many in this room, this is when actually the work started. The community spirit, the community resilience, the community support. Council teams sprang into action with many staff redeployed onto very different projects and activities.
Within hours of the country going into lockdown, Liverpool City Council developed contingency plans to protect the most vulnerable people in the city, as well as key services. Teams across the council worked together to ensure people had access to food and medicine. Plans were quickly developed to support key workers and their children. Staff were reassigned and given new, temporary jobs across the city to ensure things like bin collections, street cleansing, and services like burials and cremations could continue. The Liverpool spirit of togetherness shone through. Staff at all levels went above and beyond, and many lives were saved as a result.
The resilience, the fortitude, and the sheer energy of all in this room and across the city is actually really humbling to see, isn't it? But it gives me great pleasure now to introduce the Right Worshipful Lord Mayor of Liverpool, Councillor Mary Rasmussen, just to give us her reflections.
Mayor Joanne, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Liverpool Town Hall. It's gorgeous, isn't it? It's such a delight to be here tonight and to have the opportunity to thank you for the role that you have played in the response to the pandemic. It's a bit of a cliche, but I believe it definitely to be true, that we have a real community spirit in this city. Although we have a population of more than 500,000, it feels like one big village where people help each other out. And I hope tonight that you will get an insight into the role that some here have played in the huge challenge the city has faced over the last 18 months or so. You're all here because you've made a difference. Whether that's with one person's life or 1,000 people's, you've played your part in helping us through. What's been so hard about the pandemic is the way in which it touched all of our lives in ways that you could scarcely have imagined. Lockdowns, social distancing, the rule of 6. These are all phrases and concepts that were unthinkable before 2020. It makes things that we would have taken for granted, such as this event, all the more special. I hope you enjoy the rest of the ceremony, and I know I'm very much looking forward to hearing about what some of you have achieved. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lord Mayor. So the next part of this evening's proceedings will actually focus on those who feature in the book that we in the communications team at Liverpool City Council have produced. It's called Liverpool's COVID Journey, and we're so delighted that you're with us this evening. There are, of course, as I said at the start, many others who played a role in keeping their communities going through these very difficult times. But I want to start tonight with a group of people who are very much on the front line of this pandemic. Of course, the staff in Liverpool's intensive care units. So exactly a year to the day, the council was granted extraordinary privilege and we were allowed to enter the intensive care wards and we filmed at the Royal. We made a series of films showing what was going on and we outlined why we needed to protect each other and do the right thing to try and stop the virus from spreading. A word of warning, some of you may find the next video distressing.
Working with the Royal Liverpool University Hospital Trust, we wanted to give you an insight into what's going on inside the hospital's COVID wards. COVID is on the rise in our city and across the city region, and it's having a direct impact on hospital admissions. Every day you see teams of doctors and nurses going above and beyond to support people who have been admitted to hospital with the virus, putting their own lives at risk every single day. PPE has become normal. It's a way of life inside the hospital, and it's a visual reminder of the health and safety risks that our hospital staff are taking every single day and every single shift they attend. They're becoming physically and mentally exhausted as they try to support us and support our families. The virus is out of control and takes no prisoners. It doesn't discriminate. So the people in this ward and in other COVID wards within this hospital could be your mum, your dad, one of your children, your grandmother. Any member of your family could be lying in one of these beds either now or in the coming weeks. Nobody is immune, and that's why it's important that you see what's going on in these wards. Your actions can and will make a difference. COVID is our enemy, not each other. The fact of the matter is, we have two choices to make. To do something to try to bring this virus back under control, or do nothing and let it spread. There are now too many people dying of COVID and too many people being infected. Over 3,000 people have now got the infection in our city, and as you can see in these pictures, our wards and our ICU is becoming very, very full. So it's important that we all work together, play our role in maintaining social distancing, wearing face coverings, washing our hands, following the new rules and the regulations. The reason why we should do it is simple. We love our city, we love our National Health Service and are eternally thankful to the people that work in it. Let's give them the support that they need, and let's continue to follow the rules, stick by the things that we're being asked to do, and we can get through this. We can start to bring this virus down and the R rate down, and that means we can try to get back to some normality. Please take care of each other, support one another, and let's get through this together.
It's a tough watch, isn't it? And that was happening exactly a year ago to the day in the city. But I'm very pleased to say that one of the critical care nurses who features in our book, Sarah Meeson, is with us this evening. Sarah, please make your way to the stage to receive your copy of the book. Extraordinary work that Sarah and her colleagues continue to do every day. The council delivers many vital services to the people across our city, And one of our most visible teams is, of course, our refuse team. Everyone's got a bin that needs collecting. And whilst we were all told to stay at home, our teams were actually out on the streets continuing to collect our waste and our recycling. And that didn't go unnoticed by a little boy who's called Fox Kappa. And Fox had a very special message for our binnies.
It's a bit different now. Can't go near people now. I have to stay at home all day. We did this so it might cheer you up about the germ. In fact, I love bin.
He's absolutely fantastic, isn't he? It was such a lovely message from Fox. Fox, would you and your mum and dad like to pop up on the stage and receive a copy of your book? When we knew what Fox had done, it just touched our hearts, and we had to go and chat to him. So he's a fantastic citizen of our city. Another service that has been on the front line of the city's response was, of course, our care homes. Staff put their own lives on the line to help protect the elderly and the vulnerable. And there was one home in particular, Beachside Care Home, that really inspired us. At that home, the staff moved into the home to help reduce the chances of bringing the virus in.
We have therefore made the assessment that COVID-19 can be characterized as a pandemic.
That was our cue. We have pandemic policies and procedures in place. It was a difficult choice that had to be made to ask our residents' families not to come in and see the loved ones. 9 staff moved into the home. The staff are doing fantastic, so much so that they've just volunteered to do another 4 weeks.
I've worked here for 8 years. These have been my family for that time. It felt natural to do it for them. I miss my dog, yeah. My dad brought my dog round a couple of weeks ago. I do worry, but I do think we are doing absolutely everything we can to keep it out, so we'll just keep up the hard work. Hopefully that's enough.
We don't understand, nobody does, the full extent of the transmission route to this disease. Could it live on a loaf of bread? How long? You know, you just don't know. What a lot of people don't see, there's a lot of regulation behind the scenes. The Care Quality Commission, and they require us to have a plethora of policies, and one of those was a flu and pandemic policy. A lot of praise should go to Liverpool local authority who've supported us financially in this decision. I got in touch with them prior to the lockdown and said, look, this is what we want to do, but the financial ramifications are quite significant and we're going to need some support. And without hesitation, Liverpool City Council stepped up. 37 residents, 9 members of staff and 15 furloughed members of staff, and I worry about them every single night. You know, the thought of anything happening to them is devastating. It's that they're our family, so nothing would have stopped me doing it.
Absolutely fantastic. I'm so delighted to say that Tony Quick from Beachside Care Home is with us tonight. Tony, please pop up to the stage. Well, that was fantastic when they said they were just like our family, and thank you to Tony, and she's taken a book for Katem, her colleague as well, who couldn't be with us tonight. So when we started to return to an element of normality in the summer of 2020, it was the council's job to make sure that people were safe when out visiting bars and restaurants. And that is where the enforcement team stepped in. They were checking that venues were putting in place all the health and safety measures to keep us safe.
We're now on a central government watch list and we're on the precipice of going into local lockdown. My name's Keith Marshall, Liverpool licensing, doing a routine inspection with regards to an update on the COVID-19 regulations. The advice which we provide to the businesses, they do seem to be taking that on board and doing what they need to do, which is great to see. Just groups of 6, the track and trace, that actually becomes law from Monday. So if that's not what's happening, you're leaving yourself open for legal action to be taken against you. And obviously that's not what we want to see happening at any of the bars in Liverpool. Thank you, see you again, bye-bye. We've done the whole of Smith down. We've got another shift coming on to carry on going.
Lots of long hours, and I'm very glad to say that Keith Marshall, who you saw in that video, is with us tonight. Hi, Keith. Please come up on the stage, Keith. So it's really great now to see that our bars and our restaurants and our shops are all full of life, and there are many individuals from the retail, the hospitality and the business communities who ensured that that sector survived, and we're grateful that many of them are here tonight. It's really, really nice to see you all. We all know that we wouldn't be sitting here, though, if it wasn't for the incredible success of the COVID-19 vaccine. It's enabled us to get back to a normality that we could not have imagined a year ago. Childwall Valley Medical Centre was one of the surgeries in the city that ensured as many of their patients as possible were getting the vaccinations.
It was lovely actually receiving the vaccine, and everyone was excited. Nice to have our first few patients in. The uptake is phenomenal. Hopefully this is the beginning of the end. Well done, everyone.
Fantastic. And the doctor that you saw in that video is with us tonight. Please welcome Dr. Adebanjo. Please come to the stage. So one of the challenges of being told to stay at home through lockdown was not being able to do the things that we all enjoy. There are only so many box sets that you can binge on or online exercise classes that you can actually take part in. So in the Welsh streets, they decided to do things a little bit differently. Park Palace Ponies decided that if people couldn't come to them, then they would go to the people instead. Take a look at these extraordinary images.
It's just really magical just to have the ponies actually come to the doorstep, especially during these challenging times. It's so important to have some connection and with animals. It's just, yeah, really special for Luther. He was so excited. What did you feed the ponies?
Carrots.
Oh, there you go, Kev. Good boy. It's just been amazing. It really brings a smile to your face. People have been waiting on street corners. This half term's obviously a bit different because we're in lockdown. So we sort of thought, how can we do something wonderful and wild that sort of ties into what we normally do, which is bringing the ponies to communities that otherwise wouldn't have them. And as part of the Great British Art Exhibition, we're trying to get the ponies as live models and get the children to sort of draw and produce pictures, sculptures, anything of the ponies as they see them walking past, and then send them in to us.
I'm delighted to say that one of the team members from Park Palace Ponies is here this evening, as well as Athalia Johnson and her son Luther, who was some of the residents that they went to visit. Please come forward. Liverpool's libraries are one of our most valued services, and there are actually more people that visit them every year than attend Goodison or Anfield. That is really true, and I'm sorry to say so. But of course, that couldn't happen during lockdown, and this is where the home library service really stepped up its game, and it decided to take books to the library users.
The service has been opened up to people who are shielding. It's really taken off. A lot of grateful people getting back in touch with us. A few things like biscuits and sweets and things sent in. I don't feel like I'm doing anything more than I would be normally, but obviously it's being appreciated by a lot of people now. I am. Yeah, it's Helen from the library. So if you can just leave the books that you're returning in a bag on your doorstep, and then when Dave comes with your new ones, he'll take your bag away, leave a new bag of books for you, and just give you a knock to say that we're there.
I was made up when Ellen rang me to tell me that he was starting again. So be lost for Outie.
Could Helen Bull from the library service please come to the stage? So we've already heard about the amazing work that our care homes did, but one of the consequences of staff putting residents first was that they were unable to allow relatives to visit the residents. And for some, this meant that husbands and wives were separated for months on end with only video or phone calls to keep in touch. This is the story of John and Lillian Riley, and the first time that they were reunited in 9 months, thanks to a pilot scheme that was run in the city.
And she said, "Do you know how old I am?" So I said, "No, and I don't care. We've been married 43 and a half years, and we've had a marvellous time together." Being able to come in and see her and the staff. So it's a wonderful, but very emotional. You know. So I'm glad, just so glad that I can do it.
Hey, yes! Hi, John. Hi, John.
It's lovely to see her, being able to hold her hand and see her in person. It's different to seeing her on the screen and that. Well worth the time and all the effort doing all the testing, you know. You can't, to physically touch your beloved, you know, you just can't explain it.
John's story touched all of our hearts, and we were so privileged that he allowed us to be with him when he was reunited with his wife. And I'm so delighted to say that John is with us this evening. John, please make your way to the stage. And I'm very pleased to say that Lillian is doing very well. So one of the challenges of managing the pandemic was dealing with the inevitable spike in cases in different parts of the city. And in the summer of 2020, the council and its partners worked with the community of Princes Park to reduce a worrying rise in cases.
Just letting people know there's been an increase in coronavirus in the area. Do you know about the new testing centre that's open? Well, in the car park on the King's Road entrance, there's a test centre. You don't need to book, it's completely free. It's 9 AM to 4 PM every day this week.
I live in this community. I've worked in this community for a very long time. It's a very diverse community. It's very multicultural. So we really felt that there was an importance that we provided the information in ways that people could understand. There's a range of different languages that they're aware of safeguarding each other, safeguarding their families. It's been great. I've had some great conversations. I've seen neighbours as well. I've even seen my mum when I walked up and down the street. I've managed to work out a deal to get my phone fixed. So it's about bringing the community together, I think, and supporting each other locally, which I think has been brilliant.
The faith communities from right across our city work together to mobilise their congregations and their communities. And I'm very grateful to say that Ibrahim Saeed and the Reverend Crispin Paling are here tonight, so please come forward. So one of the innovations that Liverpool pioneered during the pandemic was, of course, the smart COVID testing of the city's residents. And it's actually thought that the testing programme reduced the number of cases by around 20% and obviously saved lives as well. So the testing also enabled the city to emerge from the autumn lockdown into a lower tier. People from across communities, from across the city, made the time to go and get themselves tested, and they got tested twice. And some of those people had not stepped foot outside their home for a very long time.
So I'm just going to ask a few questions.
Yeah, no problem. The address is. So I like to let them do first. Yeah, you can all go. He's missing the seeing friend. Yeah, I think. Yeah, we all are.
And it's wonderful to say that the couple who featured in that video are with us this evening, and also their friend and interpreter, Laura Lamb. Laura, please make your way to the stage. Liverpool's cultural events programme is the envy of the rest of the country. But of course, all events were put on hold during the pandemic. But the cultural programme returned in style, of course it did, and it came back with the River of Light in the springtime. It was a socially distanced installation around the city centre, and it was designed to encourage people to get out and about and start enjoying and exploring the city centre in a COVID-safe way. And as always, the people of the city responded.
Some winters feel longer and darker than others, colder, harsher, more unforgiving. In the eye of the storm, it feels impossible to remember what things were like before. To remember the feeling of sun on your face, to remember freedom. But then, as morning follows night, darkness is followed by light. First, it starts slowly, cutting across the black, ribbons of light offering a glimmer of potential. A slice of life we had forgotten, which raises the spirits, offers hope and sparks the soul. Then, more. A sliver becomes a beam, a beacon of hope, a shot at renewal, a sign that maybe things can change. And then, a beam becomes a flood. Joy, clarity, the bits of life we couldn't see in the dark, suddenly in glorious technicolor. Wishes, dreams, a chance to breathe freely, a chance to look at things we thought we knew in a totally different light. Some things might never be the same again, but our passion never changed. Our open spirit never closed. The beacon that lights the way never fully dimmed. Soon, we will once again dance together in a pool of light. Liverpool.
And the light really did come back from all of the hard work from the culture team. And one of those hard-working individuals is Pippa Nolan. And actually, Pippa joins us this evening after spending a whole day getting the next River of Light ready. And I'm going to put a plug in here, Pippa. It gets underway next week, doesn't it? So please make your way up to the stage, Pippa. Thank you. So we heard earlier about the testing programme in the city, and it would not have been possible without the support of the British Army, who provided logistical expertise and help to administer the tests. And the person who led that sadly can't be here tonight, but he's a great friend of the city. So we really wanted to acknowledge the work of Brigadier Joe Fossey and the men and women from the 8 Engineers Brigade.
It's been an amazing experience professionally and a real privilege to come and help the city. I've got to say that I've never seen levels of public service as I have in the team here in Liverpool, from the City Council, teammates to NHS colleagues, to the academics, to everybody involved. I've seen soldiers come into their own. We've seen skills such as sign language come to the fore. Some gifted interpreters have made their mark as well to help others feel comfortable as they've gone through the test. And equally, in return, I think we've now been overloaded with Quality Street and Jaffa cakes and just enormous well wishes. And I'm really grateful for that. You've made us feel at home here, and we've done our very best to deliver for you. I didn't know the city over a month ago, and I think have left a special bit of my heart here, and so have all of my soldiers. It's been a pleasure to serve. It's been a pleasure to enable the city. We're now training those who can deliver it so that the city can do what it needs and deal with life with the coronavirus.
So the Brigadier can't be here tonight, but he does send us all his best wishes. And look, he's got a copy of his book as well. So after the many dark and difficult days, we saw that there could be light at the end of the tunnel, and key people in this room decided to take that opportunity to unlock the pandemic. Liverpool decided to work with central government, and we were the first city to stage the first music festival, the first conference, and of course, the first nightclub event as part of a pilot of large-scale events. And the scenes that followed were joyful.
All the people that worked on the mass testing has been working on these pilot events behind the scenes, and everyone has been excellent, really efficient and really intelligent, and it's been a real collaboration between obviously Circus, my business partners, the Liverpool Council, and importantly the ravers. You know, they are just as important in this mix as anybody else.
So we all know who's behind Circus. Of course, it is DJ Youssef. Youssef, please come forward. So ensuring that those events were safe and well managed were a brilliant team of scientists, academics and public health officials. And two of those very fine colleagues are with us this evening. Would Professor Ian Buchan and Professor Callum Semple please make their way to the front? Really nice is we've actually all become really good friends, so that's been a real delight. So look, we would have loved to have been able to feature many more people. You know, tonight's event was really just scratching the surface of those individuals and those organisations who played an important part in the city's response to the pandemic. There are many others that should have been here tonight, but we just wanted to give you a snapshot. What I'd like to do now, though, is to introduce the Mayor of Liverpool, Joanne Anderson, just to gauge her thoughts on what she's heard tonight. Mayor Joanne.
Thank you, Camilla. I'm filled with immense pride at what I've heard and seen this evening. Every single one of you here should rightly be proud of what you've done in the last 18 months. The selflessness and sacrifices that have been made to support and help others is off the scale. Young and old and from all backgrounds. And I know that we've just scratched the surface of the incredible work that has been done during the pandemic. And we had the time, we could fill the whole room. If we had the budget, we would definitely fill the whole room with people including colleagues and friends and relatives and neighbours. I'm only sorry that we can't do that. It makes me hugely proud to be Mayor of this city, and congratulations to you all, and thank you so much for all that you've done for us during COVID. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mayor Joanne. So as we've all heard tonight, Liverpool has been at the forefront of the response to the COVID-19 pandemic, and it has not gone unnoticed. So I'm delighted this evening to welcome Maggie Ray from the Public Health Faculty. She's got a special presentation to make to our public health team. A very warm welcome to you, Maggie Ray.
Thank you so much, Lord Mayor, Mayor Joanna, ladies and gentlemen, and at least one boy I saw in the audience. Lovely to be with you tonight. It's a great honour to be here in Liverpool as President of the UK Faculty of Public Health. And of course, I want to offer my thanks to everyone here tonight and to the people of Liverpool for your fantastic response to this pandemic. It's just been outstanding. Liverpool has led the way, not just in the UK, but across the whole world. So thank you so much for everything you've done. But tonight I've been specially invited here to actually thank Public Health, Matt, our Director of Public Health, Matt Ashton, and the Public Health team. But you'll understand why I want to thank people who don't have public health in their title, because it's taken all of us, all the efforts of society, to deal with this pandemic. And public health, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful specialty. It's very broad. It's a medical specialty with a multidisciplinary entrance route. We're very, very proud of that. It normally would be dealing with probably infectious diseases, but not pandemics. This, in actual fact, is my 4th pandemic that I've dealt with, and it's certainly been the worst of all of them, hasn't it? It's been unprecedented, and we probably thought we'd quite a challenge on our hands with Ebola, Zika, Novichok, and some of the other ones we've dealt with, but there's been nothing quite like this. But as I say, it's been a real privilege and pleasure to be here tonight. You can probably tell that I'm from Glasgow, with my broad Glasgow accent, even though I've lived in England for more than 40 years. I don't think anyone should lose their accent, by the way. And it's been fantastic to walk through the city today and just absorb the people of the city, because that's what public health is all about. Public health is about place, and it's about protecting your population. So I now want to pay tribute, well, first of all, to the City Council. I mean, to have this on top of all the other challenges of running your services. So I commend you for everything you've done. I commend all the partners that are here tonight and the community itself, because the community, the people, have had to make sacrifices in Liverpool, haven't they? They're the ones that have had to deal with very, very difficult situations, and I think they've responded really well. But to pay tribute to Matt, I would like to pay tribute to Matt and the team. Directors of Public Health, they're probably one of those specialties where you don't get a lot of thanks. Often when I meet with other medical specialties, one of the great things about the job, the patients always say thank you. It's not quite like that in public health, because you spend less of your time dealing with individual patients and much, much more with populations. So I would like to say thank you, particularly to Matt and the public health team, because as this is the longest running major incident that any of us have had to deal with, and I know everyone has had a difficult time, but there has been some respite along the way in the pandemic when the infection rate's been reasonably low. That's not been the case for public health. They've still had to respond to those lower rates of infection. And public health, I think, has got its part to play way beyond the pandemic. I think you'd agree that probably everyone knows what public health is now, and maybe you didn't understand that before the pandemic, because we're not ones going around blowing our own trumpet about what we do. But a big part of public health isn't just infectious diseases. We've actually got a few more pandemics that we have to deal with, because people's health is very, very precious. And in a city like Liverpool, with diseases of poverty, generation upon generation, the job is very tough. But we have to get together with our communities and really make a difference. And I think that's where you'll see the public health team in future, when the pandemic, because all pandemics come to an end, I can assure you of that. This one will come to an end too, although we'll be living with it for many years. When that happens, I'm delighted that Matt and the team will have more time to deal with some of the other really important public health agenda. I also think they'll be the go-to people when you're trying to do recovery and when you're trying to improve overall the health outcomes of your city. So they've got a very important role in delivering that. So I thought, what can I do to thank Matt and the team? And it was round about the time of the Olympics. And you have to then look through the powers you have as president of the UK Faculty of Public Health. And what I realised is I could award medals, gold medals. Isn't that great? So one of the tops of my list, I think all directors of public health have been fantastic in this pandemic, but I was absolutely delighted, and I'd asked Matt to come forward to accept this President Medal for outstanding achievements to public health and the people of Liverpool. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's nice, isn't it? Thank you so much. Obviously, I am proud, humbled, and completely grateful to you, Maggie, to receive this award, but it isn't about me, and I think that's very much what we've shown on the videos tonight. It takes a community to manage a pandemic. Right at the start, the management team under our Chief Executive, Tony, made the decision to take a brave, bold, and proactive approach to dealing with the pandemic wherever we possibly could do, doing things with and for people and never to people. And I think we've been successful in that approach. This has been both the hardest and the most rewarding time in my professional career, and I'm sure there will be many people in this room who feel exactly the same. the response from the public health team, from adults and children's services, from our communities team, from environmental health, from our business partners, the communications team, wider council services, the NHS, fire, police, and most importantly, our communities has been exceptional. I have many lasting memories of the last 20 months, and it isn't over yet. But the most significant of them of when the power of partnerships have demonstrated themselves, whether that be through the mass testing or the pilot events or the support for care homes, the welfare support for people self-isolating or in need, or outbreak situations like Princess Park. The common factor in all of that has been people, ordinary people, trying to do the right thing. It takes a community to manage a pandemic. That's real public health in practice, and I'm absolutely proud to have been able to play a part in it. Thank you to everyone in this room for the part you've played. We couldn't have done it without you. Thank you.
So an honour there for the public health team and for their continuing work. But without coming together as a city, none of those astonishing achievements that we've talked about tonight could have happened. So I'm delighted to now welcome to the stage Tony Reeves, Liverpool City Council's Chief Executive, just to get a sense of what leadership has been like during this very, very difficult time for us all. Tony.
Really great to see you all. It's been an interesting period, to say the least, in terms of the leadership challenges that we've had. But one of the things that I think sets this city apart is the ability of organisations to come together and act together, be really bold and imaginative in the things that we've done to really move things forward at pace. Be that working with businesses, to get business grants out quickly to people at a time when cash was absolutely key to protect jobs and businesses in the city. All the creative thinking around Liverpool without walls to enable hospitality sector, which is so important for our economy, to continue to work well. The way we handled going into Tier 3 last autumn with an absolute deliberate strategy of being open for Christmas. We were the only city in the country that was open for Christmas. That was great for our hospitality sector. Unfortunately, the whole of the country came to Liverpool with their germs, and we had a bit of a problem in January afterwards. But on the back of that, we were asked to do the mass testing. I got a call on a Sunday afternoon from government. Will you pilot mass testing for the country? What does that mean? They explained, said yes. Phoned all the partners and said, I've just agreed to do this on a Sunday afternoon. The following Friday, we started testing the population, and people were queuing for 4 hours to get tested. People without symptoms. That was the response from Liverpool. There's a whole host of other things we could talk about, but the key thing here is the one word I didn't hear throughout that period was no. Everything we asked, our partners stepped up, came together and did the right thing. And we did it for the people of Liverpool. I think it brought home to us what public service was all about. And this great city deserves that bold leadership. The one thing I've learned through this is Liverpool's quite comfortable with being different. When the whole world was telling us we shouldn't be doing mass testing, it was unproven public health. And some of our academics who are here tonight were copying some proper stick for that, believe me, all over the place. But we stood up and did, we just thought this was our chance to fight back against the pandemic. And it was just collective leadership across the piece on behalf of the people of Liverpool. And the stories tonight that we've heard, humbling as they are, just absolutely demonstrate why that is so important, because it's all about you and the people of Liverpool. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tony. So before we finish this evening, I would like to give a special mention to a member of my team. without whom we would not have been able to produce the book and reflect so visually on the city's response to the pandemic. She is responsible for all of the beautiful images that are in the book, and she has filmed and edited all of the powerful videos that we have produced throughout the pandemic, which have received millions upon millions of views. Getting people to pose for the camera in very, very difficult times is really not very easy at all. But Jen Bruce makes it look very, very easy. So Jen loves being behind the camera, and I don't think she's actually ever going to speak to me again, and she's hugely embarrassed. But I would like to invite the council's videographer and photographer, Jen Bruce, up to the stage to receive her copy of the book. So Jen has just told me that she's never actually going to speak to me again, so we'll see how this goes. So look, that marks the end of tonight's Thank You event. Thank you so very much to our speakers, Lord Mayor, Councillor Mary Rasmussen, Mayor Joanne Anderson, Chief Executive Tony Reeves, Maggie Ray from the Public Health Faculty, and our Director of Public Health, Matt Ashton. But thanks to you all for coming tonight, for all of the joy and the support and the community spirit that you've given to our city, and for playing such a vital role in responding to the COVID-19 pandemic. Thanks to those of you who've been watching on our live stream. Thanks for tonight.